everyone, and welcome to So Fun Club. My name is Michele Rank, and this month I'm very happy to bring out to you a very special guest. We have Jenny from Lamb Farm Designs, and I can't wait for you to see all the wonderful patterns she has. She is a first-time vendor that we have here at Moore's, and her designs are pretty fabulous. So without further ado, let me bring in Jenny. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, everyone. Hi.
So
Hi.
I met you back in October at Houston, and I was so taken back by your designs, and I knew that we had to bring you in for our customers here at Moore's. So welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
The
So
first
happy
thing
to
that
be
I
here.
want to, yeah, I know, it just seems like it's been so long already. But the first thing that I'd like to do is get a little bit of background from you. Now, I know your company's been around for a little while, but what brought Lamb Farm Designs into the quilting world?
Well, I started sewing when I was 5, started hand stitching, and then I went into crewel embroidery when everybody did the cross stitch that were stamped. You know, I was just a little girl. And then I started working at a fabric shop when I was in high school, a little fabric shop in our small little town. BJ Sewing Basket is no longer there. But that really gave me more of the sewing bug. She did have some cottons, but back in the 80s, you know, the 100% cotton fabrics were hard to come by. My mom made me a quilt, and I really fell in love with it. It didn't last through the years because back in the 80s, a lot of the fabric was a polyester blend in order to get the colors that you wanted, right? So it frayed out. I have it in a hope chest to tear it out someday and restitch it all, but I haven't done that yet. But then I was a long arm quilter back in the 90s when my kids were not quite old enough to be left alone, but really getting too big for daycare. So I ran a business for 4 or 5 years out of my home, and that way I could schedule around their sports schedules, their school schedules. I could still help out in their classrooms. And then I went back to work. I work at Kaiser Permanente, and I've gone back and forth a few times between them and quilting. In 2016, I actually bought a quilt shop, and that's when I decided to design patterns. And so you'll see an established 2016 on all my pattern covers, but I wasn't super serious about it. I used it more for fabric that I needed to pair up with something else. And I ran a little club and used my own designs for it, but was on a very small scale. The store ended up closing in 2018, and I went back to work again at Kaiser. And that's when I'll introduce you to Alex. This is Alex Emery. She's my graphic designer and illustrator, and she's going to help hold up quilts for me today. But anyway, when I took Alex on and she could do all the things for me that I either didn't know how to do, didn't want to know how to do, or didn't have the time to do, that's when I really got going. She's the one that made my pattern covers and my book covers and does the website, Etsy, and makes it possible for me to still work full time and to design quilts. So she does all the things for me, all the things. So without Alex, I probably maybe have 5 quilts under my belt by now. But she makes it easy for me to just do the parts that I really love and the parts that I only have time for, which is the design and pattern writing. So that's how I got to
Where you are now.
Designing quilt patterns. Yes. And I also, before I bought the quilt shop in 2016, I also blogged with a friend for about 1.5 years. So I feel like I've kind of touched every area of quilting, and the design is really where my love lays.
So Jenny, let's start checking into all the designs that you have to share with us today.
All right. This is the first pattern that I have ever written. It's not the first quilt that I've designed, but it is the first pattern I've written. This is called Bees on the Farm, and it's long time been my #1 selling pattern. And one of the things I really love about this pattern is this pieced border all the way around it. It just gives it kind of a picket fence look. I love it in the black, and I also like the pieced sashing and the 9-patch cornerstones. This is the second one that I've made up of this, and my lighting's not super great in here, but the wings are subtle, and I love how they're just a little tiny print And this is just one of my favorites. This is one of my favorite patterns of all time, and it's my first design. So this quilt is called All Cooped Up. These are chubby little chickens, and this is a fat 8 or a fat quarter friendly quilt. And another, you'll see, I try to use piece borders when I can in my quilts because they're interesting. And this piece border of just the pinwheels that goes all the way around helps you also incorporate the fabrics from the chickens and the wings. I love it in these Civil War fabrics, but I've also made these in fig tree fabrics, so softer, brighter, and it works really well. And it's just a fun quilt to hang in your kitchen, throw on your table. The one that I made in the fig tree fabrics, I ended up giving it as a baby shower gift for a little girl, and it's just a really cute quilt. This quilt is Stars and Stripes, and it's just a quick little hanging or a table topper for the 4th of July, or if you decorate with Americana. And I love how there's a flag pieced into the center of this sawtooth star. And then you've just got simple rail fence to finish it off. The great thing about this quilt is it's a very easy quilt to just make as big as you want. So if you don't want to stop at a table runner or a topper, you can just keep going with these blocks, alternate them, but you're going to want to make sure that you do, this is your sashing and this is your block. So you're always going to have a star in the corner if you carry out your sashing through the edge, but it's just a nice quilt. I'm thinking about writing a pattern off of it for a lap throw. And the other great thing about this is you can just make one block and sash it all the way around. These are your cornerstones, and it makes a wonderful pillow for the holidays to throw on your couch. And since we're talking about pillows, I'm going to go into, this is a 24-inch quilted pillow. This is Homestead Acres. It's also one of my favorites. All these are my favorites. Again, you can see that I put a piece border in. And this quilt is wonderful because it makes into a 24-inch table topper or wall hanging, or you can go ahead and make it into the 24-inch quilted pillow. It's got an envelope back, so you can take it apart and wash it. Just put a 24-inch form in it. And the pattern directions have the directions on how to make this into a pillow, or again, you can always just quilt and bind it and hang it on the wall. But you'll notice as a pillow, it's still quilted and it's still bound. I really like to do that with my pillows because it just finishes them off and gives them a little extra when they're sitting on your furniture or out on a porch. And I always try to bind them, especially if I'm going to use the envelope back. It's just a quick finish. And you don't have to back your pillow before you quilt it. You can back it in batting and any scrap fabric you have because you're not going to see it. So that is Homestead Acres. And this one is the same concept. It's a little bit different than Bees on the Farm, the quilt that I showed you earlier. This is just buzzing around. And it also has the piece border around it like Bees on the Farm. But again, you can make this into a 24-inch quilt to hang on your wall, throw over the back of a chair, or you can make it into the 24-inch pillow. And I will tell you something about pillows. When my kids were like in upper grade school, I made them quilted pillows like this. They weren't these patterns. And they used them until they wore them out. They used them on their beds. They used them on the couch. They used them watching TV, doing homework. These are a really good gift, this size pillow, for the preteens in your life. This is my Oh Snap pattern for the holidays. It's really cute with the 3 gingerbread men just sashed together so that you can hang it on a wall. You can also move, these are square blocks. You can move them any direction you want. If you want to throw it on a table runner, make it into a table runner, throw it on a table. You can position your gingerbread men different ways so that if you're walking around your table, they're not all going the same direction. The fabric requirements for this and the pattern also include another gingerbread man block, that you can make into a quilted pillow. All the directions are in the pattern to do the envelope back again. And it's just really cute. I had a friend that made them. She didn't make the hanging, but she has grandkids. And so she made Christmas pillows for each of her grandkids to put on their beds during the holiday season of the little gingerbread men. So this is just a really, really cute way to incorporate some other mediums into your quilts. You've got the rickrack, and I used antique buttons that don't match, and then just little black buttons for their eyes. But it just makes a darling little wall hanging or pillow for the holiday season. And it's quick. It doesn't take too long to make this one up. All right, this is my Churning Hearts pattern. And again, you see that I have another piece border. I just love piece borders. The directions in this, for this particular quilt, show you a different method to make flying geese if you're interested. And you can make 4 at a time. They're super accurate, or you can make in the traditional way. But the pattern directions in this pattern teach you that method to make 4 at a time, which I think is really valuable because you can make flying geese in no time flat. 4 of them at a time, it goes super quick. I also like this quilt because it's not traditional in the red and whites. I wanted it in the blue so that you could hang it more than just Valentine's Day. But if you wanted to make it in traditional red and white or red and cream and have a Valentine's Day quilt, it's super cute. And yeah, the piece border, then you've got the little churn dashes, and you can also change this up a little bit. The pattern requirements are written to add a different contrasting light in here, but you could also use the background if that's what you wanted to do to make it just a little less busy. But I like it the way it is. This is another one of my earlier patterns, and this is Richmond Rails. It is just so warm and snuggly. It's a really generous lap quilt. And it's made with a variety of values, but super scrappy. So you've got your darks that make your chain through the center, and your points that also make your chain going the opposite direction. And then you've got your lights, all different values of lights, and then you've got your mediums. And so it's a great stash buster. It's great to use up those fat quarters. And it's just a really snuggly quilt that you can take to the beach. You can throw it in your camper. It goes together really quick because it's half square triangles and squares. And other than this little border, I was originally going to write this borderless, but this quilt needed the border with the fabrics I use. You may decide that you don't need the borders and the binding is enough of a finisher for you. And then I just simply bound it in a solid black. But this is still in the circuit for quilt shows and stuff. But when it's not, I can't wait to snuggle up with it. It's made out of these delicious Civil War fabrics, but it would look really, really great if you did an assortment of low volumes. And the only color that you had in it was everything low volume except for this, the points, the dark points, and the dark chain, and used an ombre for it. And just one solid ombre. One color. So you had like coral or turquoise to go with all the low volumes. And I think it would just be stunning. That's on my list to make. I just haven't done it yet. But it's a super easy quilt. It would be a great leaders and enders project because you're making a lot of half square triangles. Okay, this quilt is crisscross applesauce, and it is a completely fat quarter friendly quilt. The only yardage you need for this quilt, besides backing, of course, is 5/8 of a yard of the binding. Other than that, the entire quilt is made with fat quarters. And again, this is really beginner friendly because it's half square triangles and squares. So it goes together really quickly. And I wanted to also mention that most of my patterns are, really all of my patterns are confident beginner friendly. Some of my pieces are smaller, but if you just follow the directions, you can work right through the patterns. They all have great graphics. They all have step-by-step directions, and all of the pressing directions are included so that your blocks nest, which is really nice. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. But anyway, this is crisscross applesauce, and it's just a wonderful fat quarter friendly quilt in a really good lap size. Again, you could make this any size you wanted. It's not bordered. I would just recommend sticking to a odd by odd block sequence. So if you want to make this one's 5 by 7, so that you've got the same blocks in the corners, you can make it 7 by 7, 7 by 9, and very easy to make it any size you want. All right, this pattern is Midnight Stars. It is also one of my favorites. It does not have a piece border. It's just got a simple inner border and an outer border. But this is one of those patterns that I fell in love with the fabric and carried it around for a couple years before I knew what I was going to do with it. And I don't really like a lot of black in my quilts, but it works in this quilt and I love it. I've never made a quilt before with a black background. This is my first one, and so far I haven't made another one, but it really makes these stars pop. And this is also fat quarter friendly. So you need a little bit of light, you need a lot of background, and then fat quarters of the coordinating colors. And I just tried to kind of have them match the tone of this wonderful black background piece. You do need a triangle and a square. The templates are included in the pattern. So if you don't have either a triangle and a square ruler from Block Block or the Tri-Rex ruler from the Tri-Rex ruler. The Tri-Rex ruler is great. It makes multiple sizes with the same ruler set. You can also cut out templates based on the pattern and make your own templates. I also wanted to let you know that the cutting directions for these half or triangle and a square units, you have different strip width lengths in the pattern depending on which tool you're using. So that also makes it easy for you to follow my pattern. You're not having to get your directions out for the Block Block ruler and decide how big you want to cut your strips for this piece and this piece. And you don't have to do it for the Tri-Rex. And the Tri-Rex matches the templates in my pattern. So it makes it very easy for you to cut this quilt out. And again, lots of good graphics so that you can easily construct these squares. And these squares are just a big 9-patch, half square triangle units, and a triangle and a square unit. So they go together pretty quickly. And you can also put a light background and use maybe a black for your points or a deep purple or a navy blue and coordinate the rest of it with that. So you don't have to do this with the black background. I did because I fell in love with this fabric. So that's why I wrote this pattern. This pattern is Boho Kisses, and it uses a panel. So many times you're in a quilt shop and you see those really adorable panels and you're not quite sure what to do with them, but you buy them anyway and you get them home and they kind of sit there because you're not sure what to do with them. So this pattern is actually written in 2 different sizes, one using, I believe these finish to 5 inches panels, and one, the smaller version, uses panels that finish to 2 inches. I believe it's just a little word saying. And when I write a pattern in multiple sizes, I usually keep the layout the same, but change the block sizes because I feel like we can all make as many 40 blocks instead of 20 if we want to make a quilt bigger, but you don't necessarily want to make 40 blocks of the same. So what I've done in this pattern is I've given you the same exact layout except smaller. So you've got actually directions to make these blocks in a smaller size or in the size shown in this quilt. And the smaller size incorporates a smaller panel. And a lot of times when you buy a panel, you buy it for the great big word saying, and then there's littler sayings down the side. So this pattern just gives you an option for how to use up those smaller panels. You can see that I carried the flying geese out to this inner piece border so that these blocks complete, they don't just drop off. And I've also scrapped it up a little bit with 3 different aquas, 3 different reds, 3 different pink or yellows. And then you've just got a nice floral border that finishes it all off and ties it all together. And this one is Boho Kisses. And the pattern has both sizes. This is the larger lap size. The other one is a smaller lap size. Yeah, this was a really fun one to make too. This is my newest pattern. This is called Nosegay. And I just wanted to make, to me, it reminds me of little bouquets. So I think it's a really nice quilt. There's no Y seams in it. It's all half square triangles, and it's got a simple sashing and cornerstones, just so that you're tying your outer border back into the quilt. It's all made with one collection, and it is a fat quarter friendly quilt, and it goes together also very quickly and very beginner friendly on this one. This is one of my favorites, and you can use whatever colors you want, and you can scrap it up as much as you want. So here mine have the same 3 fabrics on the top and bottom of the block, but you could definitely just scrap the whole thing up or go ahead and follow the directions and use fat quarters. This quilt is in a book called Summer on the Farm, and it just kind of reminds me of all things summer. You've got my husband, we live on a little farm out in the country, and my husband's restoring an F100 pickup in the 50s, and he wants to paint it green, so I had to add the pickup in it. This pickup has a little bouquet of a little batch of flowers in the back end. And then you've got your farmhouse, and of course you've got to have flags and pinwheels for summer, and apples and pears and bees. And then you've got the barn and an old-fashioned ice cream churn and a watering can and flowers. And then, of course, on the bottom, I'm going to grab it right about here. Just pull it up. Since my last name is Lamb, I couldn't make a quilt without having kissing lambs in it with a little heart underneath of them, some more little posies, some little hand shovels for when you're gardening. You've got little birds. And this quilt, this book has 9 projects in it. This is the cover quilt. And the other projects all incorporate different blocks together to make the same, to make 9 different projects, 8 more from this one quilt. The other thing I really like about this quilt is it uses 10 low volume fat quarters, and then you've got all your little sashings between your sections in low volumes. And that way you use those low volumes up that a lot of times sit until you figure out what to do with them. And it also adds a little interest instead of just having a lot of background, because I like to sash between my blocks if at all possible, so that especially a busy quilt like this, it gives your eye a resting place, and it also makes it easier to nest your blocks up to each other so that you don't have a bunch of bulky seams. This kind of replaces that, so you don't have all these seams of this truck coming into the side of the house, or all these seams coming together. So I really like this little piece square border. I think it really sets this quilt off. And the book has 9 patterns, and you'll get inspiration from the pictures. Some of them I use fabrics like this. Some of them I use Civil War fabrics. I just think it's a really nice mix of all the things that reminded me of summer on the farm, including little lemonade jars. It is the first book I ever wrote. That was the Summer on the Farm was the second. This one is called Ghoulish Tidings. And I had seen a lot of Halloween quilts out there, but they have a lot of background. And I do my own long arm quilting on a computerized machine. And I don't do anything fancy. I only quilt for myself, and I own it with a couple of friends. So when I saw that background space, I was like, I'd have to do something really fancy to fill that up quilting, and I don't want to. So I designed a quilt that's a little bit busier with a little less negative space. And this is what I came up with. You've got your haunted mansion, your potion bottles. I do only have 2 projects in this book, this quilt and some little stuffed pumpkins to set around with it. But I will tell you that this section right here, as it's written, makes a wonderful table topper or table runner. And I've made it a couple ways. One, I switched my large pumpkins upside down so that if you're on one side of the table, it's facing you, and if you're on another side of the table, it's facing you, instead of everything upside down if you're on the wrong side of the table. But that makes a really cute table runner. I took the potion bottles and I quilted them up and made them into a quilted pillow to sit out at the Halloween season and fall. And then this also, fold it in half, made a super cute table runner. So what I did was I used the right facing crow, these 3 stars, and the left facing crow, and then I put a couple borders on it, and it is really a cute runner. And I made it in warmer fall tones so that it can sit out through the fall season before I'm decorating for Christmas. And another thing interesting about this quilt is it's just got a really simple on point square border, and you incorporate all the prints that you used in this quilt, and it just finishes it off really nicely. So even though there's not extra projects in this, there is a download on my website that shows you how to make this table runner. So you can do some fun stuff with this quilt. You've even got your witch's boots and your mausoleum with a graveyard around it. So I tried to be Halloween, but not too scary. And I've my pattern tester made that up in all grunge fabrics and really vibrant, and it's really stunning with the contrast. All right, this is my down the lane lamb pattern. Of course, since my last name is Lamb, I had to make a lamb pattern. And real quickly, my grandma had taken a bad fall, and so she was recuperating at my house for a couple months, and I took a couple months off my day job, which is Kaiser, so that I could take care of her. And while she was recuperating with me, I designed and sewed up 3 quilts. And this is one of them. This is my favorite one that I made while my grandma was staying with me. So I think it's pretty awesome that I have this as a memory of that time while she was with me. And this quilt also, it looks a little complicated, but the directions are step by step. And if you're comfortable working with smaller pieces, then this will go together in no time flat for you. So there are 12 different sampler blocks. So each time you make a sampler block, you're going to make 2 of them, one for a right facing sheep and one for a left facing sheep. And they're just pieced in the backs. And then of course, no sheep quilt would be complete without a black sheep. And of course, you can do whatever you want with your quilt. You can put as many black sheep as you want in it. You can put white sheep. You can do a combination of both. But I have a little black sheep. He's kind of great in my quilt with a red heart in his back. And then again, the scraps are just used for the cornerstones, and then very simple borders. I didn't do a piece border on this quilt because I felt like there was enough going on with the colors and the pattern that it didn't need any more. It just needed these cute little sheep with the pieced sampler blocks in their back. And I want to thank Michelle and Moores for this opportunity to share my quilts with all of you and to share my passion for quilting with you. It really is my passion, and I'm really no better than a quilt pusher. But anyway, I just want to thank Moores for that. And I know that Moores is going to have some specialty pricing for these patterns. So be sure to check Moores out and pick up your patterns.
Thank you, Jenny. What a treat to have Lamb Farm Designs with us here for our So Fun Club. Now let's talk about our very special pricing that we always secure for our customers. So the first grouping that I have, these patterns retail for $12, but our very special So Fun Club price is only $9.59. The first one is Churning Hearts. And then we had Just Buzzing Around, which was one of the pillows that she featured. Homestead Acres, which was also another pillow with that adorable home. And then we can't forget Jenny's very first quilt that she did, which was Bees on the Farm. Crisscross Applesauce, and then one of her newest patterns is Nosegay with those adorable flowers. Midnight Stars, what a striking quilt that was with the very dark colors. We have Boho Kisses, Richmond Rails, and what an opportunity to use your scrap pieces on Richmond Rails. Stars and Stripes, and I can just see those quilts, a full quilt with all the different blocks throughout. And then we have Down on the Lane, which was the really cute one with all the lambs and the sheep and that one black sheep that we always have to have in our fields. And then we have another price point. Now these ones also retail for $12, but we have an even better price for you. Once again, we have shared that we always research and make sure that our prices are the lowest. And on these 2 patterns, we dropped our prices to secure that price point. Now these 2 patterns are featured at $8.89. And the first one is all cooped up with all those adorable chickens. And then we had Oh Snap, which are the gingerbread men. And then we go down to our price points, which are $15 retail, but our very special Sew Fun Club price is only $11.99. And that is down the lane. And then we go into Jenny's books. And I love her books because any book you get multiple things that you can make and you can mix and match. The first one is Ghoulish Tidings. And retail on that book is $24.99, and our Sew Fun Club price is only $19.19. And keep in mind, there's just 2 projects in there, but you can mix and match things and make your own projects as well. And then the last one is probably my favorite because there's so many options. Retail for Summer on the Farm is $29, but our very special Sew Fun Club price is only $23.99. Now keep in mind, in this book, you get 9 projects to make. Such a bargain for such wonderful designs from Jenny Lamfard Designs. So those are our special prices that we have for you today. And then I want to talk about one of my favorite things, as always, is show and tell. And we always have a special giveaway that we have if you share your projects that you're working on. And you're going to do this on our Facebook page. After you've watched the videos, you can go ahead and upload some pictures of what you finished and what you're working on. I love to see them, and I know everyone else does too. So we have 2 prizes that we have for this one, and we have the Yazzie organizers. Now these organizers are great. Not only can you use them right next to your sewing machine to keep your items in, but they're great if you travel and sew. If you come to any one of our stores and take a class, they're the perfect thing to keep your notions and all of your projects in. So we have the green color that we'll be giving away, and also we have the fuchsia. Now, once again, these are valued at over $40, so they're a great thing that you can utilize. And once again, to get in the running for one of these wonderful gifts, all you need to do is share a picture of your finished project with us on Facebook. So now let's get into my favorite part of any Sew Fun Club, show and tell. So this is my quilt to start us off here today. This is 4 giraffes. I absolutely fell in love with this pattern when I was at Rhodes, California. I fell in love with the eyes. They're so expressive. And I love the fact that their ears are free to move, so they're almost 3D. And the little bird as well. And then I've added special details on the tails where they have a little bit of free movement there too. So this is what I have to share. Now for you, on our Facebook page, after the show has ended here for our Sew Fun Club, go ahead and add your pictures on Facebook, and I can't wait to see what you've been working on or what you finished as well. And don't forget that you can have a chance at winning one of our special prizes, and this one, the Yazzie organizer, is valued at over $40. So once again, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day and joining us for our Sew Fun Club. Don't forget, you can always click on the link in the description of this video, and that will take us to our online store, moors-sew.com. And on there, you can go to our page where you can purchase a machine, purchase products, everything that you need to know for sewing you can find with us at Moors Sewing. So don't forget, moors-sew.com. And until next month, it's been my pleasure to be your host today, and I look forward to seeing you again on our next Sew Fun Club. Take care. Happy sewing.